Okay, let's now start our sixth lecture under this module 4. In the last lecture, we have seen how to read the data from a Hadoop URL. If Hadoop URL is passed as command line argument, then how to use it to read the data into the input stream and read the data from input stream onto an output device. Okay, that is the first method. And the second method we have seen how to read the data using file system API by passing the file system API as the path. Okay, so if you have a file system on Hadoop, how can you access that file system in order to read the data? Okay, and by for performing these two tasks, what is the importance of file system data input stream and how it is derived from data input stream, which is a part of the package java.io. Right? So we have seen that java.io is a package which provides us with data input stream, which is further extended to implement the specialized class FS data input stream. In the same way, you have another stream, FS data output stream, which can be derived from data output stream that is part of java.io package. Okay, these two streams we have used to perform reading and writing of data from the Hadoop URL and writing the data back to Hadoop file system. Okay, for that we have seen how to write the data. We have seen Java code, Java implementation to write the data onto a file system on Hadoop, and also some commands are covered which helps us to create directories or work with directories, right? These are the concepts we covered in last lecture. Now let us cover on these topics of querying the file system and deleting data from a file. Querying the file system means if you can give some queries to the file system, if you can put some questions to the file system regarding the status of the files, or if you want to list some files, or use a path filter to filter out some files and retrieve only some of the files in a file system, right? All these can be done by writing some queries to the file system, by writing some questions as you do in DBMS. Same things, you in the same way you can query the file system to perform some operations like knowing the status of the file, listing the files, or filtering out the paths that are you're not interested in, and whichever paths you want to retrieve, only those can be retrieved by using a path filter. And finally, we'll see how you can delete data from a file. That is easy task. The main things you have to concentrate in today's lecture is these three concepts: how to use file system, how to use file status, how to list the files, and how to use path filters. Now, in order to know about the file metadata, in order to know about file's length, replication factor of the file, modification time, when was the file last modified, who is the owner of the file, what are the permissions that are granted for that file, and what is the block size of the file. If you want to know such kind of metadata about a file, you can use this file status property. Okay, so an important feature or an important property of any file system is the ability to navigate its directory structure. If you want to know about its directory structure, if you want to know about the file hierarchy or directory hierarchy in a file system, then this kind of properties will be useful for us. That property, one such property is this file status. It helps us to retrieve information about the files and also directories that it stores. Say if you have a file, if you have a directory user, under this you have some directory John, under this you have another directory Tom, under this you have a file abc.txt. In order to know about the hierarchy or directory structure in a file system, or to retrieve information about the files and directories that particular file system stores, for that you can use this file status property. Okay, so the file status class, this is a class and which encapsulates file system metadata for files and directories. If you want to store, if you want to encapsulate, if you want to collect all the information about a file system in the metadata form, that can be performed by using file status class. Sorry, I mentioned it as a property. It is a file status class. Okay, so how to use this file status class? What kind of metadata it encapsulates? Let us see. The first kind of metadata means the data it provides about a file is the file length. It provides us the file length. What is the length of the file? How many bytes a file consists of? And what is the block size? This is very important, right? If you want to store the file in a fragmented format, what do you mean by fragmentation? You divide the file into multiple fragments, into multiple parts, and you distribute those parts onto data nodes, right? Each data node is a system that is deployed on a cluster, right? So when you want to divide the file into fragments, you do that at a block level. If you want to store the data on a Hadoop cluster, or if you want to transfer the data across data nodes in a Hadoop cluster, you do that at the block level. The level of abstraction we use for storage and transfer in Hadoop cluster is block. Okay, so this block size also can be known with respect to a file, whether it is 64 MB or whether it is 512 MB, or you have kept it as large as 1 GB. That can be known by this block size. And if you want to know the replication factor tells us how many copies of that file is maintained on different data nodes in the HDFS cluster. You very well understood in the previous classes that replication factor will help us to maintain multiple copies of a file so that it ensures high availability of data in case of data loss or data corruption, or if some disk fails. In such cases, if you have an alternative copy, it will be easy for us to retrieve that copy without having to lose the data, right? So the replication factor, the number of copies that have to be maintained, that also can be known. For that file, how many copies are being maintained? For that file, what is the replication factor? That can be understood from this property, replication. And the next property is modification time. When was the file last modified? That can be known. And who is the owner of the file? What is the ownership of that file? Who is the authorized user of that file? Who is the authorized owner of that file? That can be understood by ownership format. Ownership feature. And the last data you can find out. There are many other properties, but the main properties we are trying to discuss here. So other property is permission information. What kind of access is granted to the file? What kind of permissions are granted to the file? Whether it is read-only access or write-only access, or both read-write access are provided, or only append access is provided. All this information is known about a file. Now the method get file status on file system class provides a way of getting a file status object for a single file or directory. If you want to know the file status object for a single file, if you want to know the metadata about a single file, or if you want to know the metadata about a directory, that can be obtained by using the method get file status from the file system class. This get file status method is member of file system class. So you can invoke this get file status method from the file system class in order to get the file status object to know details about a file or a directory structure. Okay. Now let us see how to query the file system. How you can write Java code in order to pose queries to a file system. in order to question a file system, to know data about either a file or a directory. Okay, so what class you are writing here? You're creating a class show file status test. Okay, you're creating a public class in which we embed our Java code to query the file system. So what is the name of this Java class now? Show file status test, right? And we are creating two variables here of private type. Private type means we don't want these variables to be accessed outside the class, right? So we are restricting the access of those variables to be private. But what are those variables we are creating? One is the mini DFS cluster variable, and the other one is the file system variable or object. What is this mini DFS cluster? Sometimes you tend to run your data node as a single data node on a cluster just to perform some testing. You know that cluster contains large number of data nodes, right? HDFS cluster contains large number of data nodes, means large number of systems which perform the processing task or which perform the analysis task. But if you want to set up a mini cluster, if you want to set up a cluster with a single node, with a single data node, so that you can test your Java code before scaling it up to a larger cluster, right? For simple scale testing, you can use this mini DFS cluster class. Okay, for this mini DFS cluster class, you are creating an object cluster. So this tells us that we are trying to run a single data node on the HDFS cluster in order to perform some testing tasks at a smaller scale, right? So this is used as an in-process HDFS cluster, just used for testing. We are just using it for testing. Students, stop me if you have a doubt anywhere in the class. Don't wait till the end. Okay, whenever I'm discussing something, if you have a doubt in your mind, ask it then and there itself, so that it will be useful for other students also. Okay, you understood now what is the importance of mini DFS cluster? It is used to test the Java implementation at a smaller scale before scaling it up to a larger cluster. Okay, for that we are creating a mini DFS cluster object, and we are also creating the file system object. Now start with annotations. These are not compulsory. We just add annotations to understand about about the purpose of that block that is following that annotation. Means that is like a metadata. Annotations are like metadata which help you to provide extra information about what statements you have added to the Java code or to the Java class, and for what purpose you are adding it, or what is the precedence of their execution. That kind of information can be added through annotations. Now, by this annotation before, we can understand that this is executed before anything else in this Java class, right? So these annotations are like metadata and are completely neglected by Java compiler. Java compiler or Java interpreter doesn't execute them. Okay, they are not at all considered for compilation or execution by Java compiler and Java interpreter, right? So these annotations serve as metadata which will give us information about the precedence of execution, or it helps us to add some good amount of documentation in a Java class, right? So now you start with a method setup. Now we are trying to set up the cluster. You're trying to set up some properties of the cluster. Now you're using setup method for that, which again throws IO exception. I already said whenever you're performing some input-output operations, the system may raise some exceptions, and in order to gracefully make the system handle those exceptions, you have to throw the exception when defining the method or defining a class. Okay. So this setup method throws IO exception, and what are the tasks you have to perform under this setup method. Observe each and every line carefully. You are creating a configuration object here. Why we are creating this configuration object? This configuration object encapsulates the server or client configuration on which you are running these tasks. Okay, so in order to get that encapsulated configuration of the client or server, you're using this configuration object. Create a configuration object as new instance of the configuration class. Now, if the system.getProperty, what property you are referring to here? If the system's property, retrieve the property, if the property of test build data is equal to null. Now, set that property to a temporary directory. What you're doing? You're retrieving a property and you're finding if it is initialized to null. If at all that property is initialized to null, or if at all that property has a null value, then you have to set the property of this test build data to a temporary directory. Okay, why you're doing it? You're not statically defining a constant directory. You're just testing it. You're testing this Java implementation at a smaller scale. For that, we don't want a static directory. So you're going with a temporary directory. You want to just test your code with a temporary directory. That is why test build data property is assigned a temporary directory. Okay, /tmp denotes a temporary directory that is rooted at temp. Got it? Now, you create a new instance of mini DFS cluster. You're creating a new instance of mini DFS cluster means you're invoking a data node. You're starting a data node and storing that instance in the cluster. Mini DFS cluster, again I'm repeating, you're trying to set up one single data node on a cluster in order to perform testing process of this Java implementation at a smaller scale. Okay, now when you're creating this mini DFS cluster, what parameters do you pass? You pass the configuration object because that data node's configuration has to set up, and you're using a single data node on this cluster. You're using only one data node on this cluster. So this one represents the number of data nodes on that cluster you're trying to set up to perform this testing task. Okay, at present you are using only one data node. And what is the next command? True. This true will enable the cluster to format the name node as well as the data node. Understand these parameters carefully. Do not get confused with these parameters and the copy bytes parameters. That format almost looks the same, but you should not be confused. In this case, you are setting up a mini cluster with one data node. For that data node, you are passing the configuration object, and this number specifies how many data nodes you are setting up on a cluster for this testing process, and then true Boolean value. Here this value, if it is enabled as true, this indicates that you are requesting for formatting of data nodes and name nodes before setting up of this cluster. And finally, you are assigning a null value. When you assign a null value, that property is what you are trying to set. They'll be initialized. They'll be initially set to null. Now you are using this cluster object and getting the file system instance. You are getting the file system instance on this cluster, and that instance you are passing on to your file system instance. You understood what we are doing? On the cluster, from the data node, you are trying to get the file system instance and connecting it to your local file system instance. Right? Now we are creating an output stream object, output stream object out. You're creating an object out of output stream, and to what it is connected to which path it is connected to. You're creating a new instance of the path which is passed here as parameter. You're creating a new instance to a file system path and connecting it to the output stream so that you can retrieve all the metadata about this file into your output stream, and from that output stream you write it onto your console, or you retrieve the data about that file and store it in an output stream to get further reference to that, to refer to that and know the file status. Okay, I'm repeating this line again. You're creating a path to a file, or you're creating a path to a directory. It is your option. If you want to know the status of a directory, you can do that. If you want to know the status of a file, you can do that by passing the path as parameter here. Now you're creating a new path to this file in this case, and you're connecting it to the output stream through which you can retrieve the file status, through which you can retrieve the metadata about the file. Got it? So you write the data from the output stream by using the content, by referring to the content, and get the bytes using UTF format, UTF-8 format. It is a 8-bit Unicode transformation format which will help you to transform a string into UTF and UTF back to a string. Okay, it is a 8-bit format, Unicode transformation format, right? Using this format, you're getting the bytes and you're getting the bytes of the contents for which you want to write something, from which you want to extract some information like status of the file. So next you close the output stream. Okay, so what you're doing here, you're connecting to a file system on Hadoop and trying to access that file system to query about its file status parameters. Okay, now what are those parameters you are querying? I'll show you in the next slide. Now see this, we are using annotation after. So what has to be done before? That block you have placed in your previous slide. Now what have to be done after this? After opening an output stream to that file path on HDFS, you have to tear down. Yes, now the complete setup is done. You have established a communication channel to the file system on HDFS to know the file's status or to know the directory's status. Now what is your next task? Tear down the cluster. Shut the cluster. Shut down the cluster. Okay, that is performed by the method tear down. That is performed by the method tear down, right? So what you do in this tear down method, this is something like shutting down the cluster. Okay, do not get confused with the name. Now this tear down, in this tear down method, you are trying to check whether the file system object is null. If the file system object is not connected to the Hadoop's file system path, means if a path is established, right? If a path is established and the required task is performed, now fs is not equal to null. Means some file system on the Hadoop cluster is associated with this file system instance. Yes, it is not null. Means the path is established, the channel is established, the required task is performed. Now that is why it is not equal to null. A file system is containing some reference to a file system on Hadoop. It is not null. Now if fs is not equal to null, if there is some task that is performed by opening a channel to the file system on Hadoop, right? All the task is done. Now what is your final touch? You have to close the file system stream, right? You're closing the file system stream, or you're closing the file system object by calling this method fs.close. Now the file system is closed on the data node. What is your next task? You have to close the cluster also. You have to shut down the cluster also. This is a good programming practice. Why? Because you doesn't want the cluster to be unnecessarily up and running. You have to utilize the resources optimally. So whenever a cluster is not being utilized, it is always a good practice to shut down the cluster. That is what you're doing in this line. If cluster is not equal to null, yes, if a cluster is established with a data node and all the necessary tasks are performed, what is your next step? Shut down the cluster. Cluster dot shut down. You're shutting down the cluster. Right? Now, the stream has been set up, task has been completed, and the cluster has been shut down. Now, how to test this code? You can also associate a testing block with every Java implementation so that you can immediately test whether your code is working fine or not. Because if you don't test the Java code at a smaller scale, it is hard to keep track of the bugs when it is deployed onto a cluster. Understand this, I'm repeating again. Once you're not able to check your Java implementation at a smaller scale on a single machine and start deploying it onto a HDFS cluster for a larger scale implementation, it is very, very difficult to keep track of the bugs. That is why you have to test it at a smaller scale. Unit testing has to be performed. That is called as JUnit testing, Java unit testing. Unit testing at a smaller scale, every line of the code have to be tested first. Only then it has to be deployed onto a larger cluster. Right? So how do you perform the testing here? What is expected when you are performing this testing? File not found exception may be expected. Okay, so that you are passing as annotation here, just to warn, just to alert the user that this kind of exception may arise. This is optional again. You may or may not include it. For good documentation purpose, programmers will include this. Okay, now you're using a public void method. Read the method's name carefully. You're creating an exception by yourself. You're not using any of the system's exceptions. You are trying to define a new exception. What is that exception? Throws file not found for non-existent file. You're creating a new exception called as throws file not found. For what kind of files? For non-existent files. Okay, and this also you're trying to handle the IO exception through this method. Now, what is the file get status? What is the get file status method? What should it do? The file system get file status method. What should it do when this method and this exception arises? It should raise an exception. It should provide a message that creates a new path instance, and that message should indicate that there is no such file that is existing. Okay, so when you want to handle an exception which throws file not found exception for non-existent files, for such files, if you want to handle the exception, you don't want the system to handle the exception. If you want to handle the exception with a meaningful message, you can do that by using get file status method of file system class by creating a new path instance and passing the message no such file or no such file found or no such file exists. You can give any kind of such messages. Right? So whenever you're creating a, whenever you're connecting, whenever you're establishing a connection through a file system object to the Hadoop file system, if that connection is not established due to non-existence of the file on Hadoop file system, you can handle that exception by using this get file status method of file system class. Got it? Now let us see how you can further test various properties of file system. If you want to test various parameters that have been set for the file in the file system on Hadoop, you can do that by file status for file method. Okay, you're creating a file status for file method. It is not abstract method that exists. You're creating it. Why you're creating this file status for file method? To know various parameters, whether they are set properly or not, whether the metadata that is set for the file is tallying with your expectations or not. In order to test it, you use this method file status for file. Okay, now what you do in this method, you create a path object which creates a new path instance to this file. Now what you're trying to do is you are trying to find the status or metadata about this file under this directory. Understand this carefully. Now your purpose is to know the metadata about this file under this directory. So you're creating a new instance of this file which is existing on your Hadoop file system. Did you observe one thing in Hadoop? What we are doing, you're not directly accessing that directory, or not, you're not directly accessing a file. You're creating an instance, you're creating a representative of that directory or file and trying to access that. Okay, so you're using the path object file and you're creating a new instance to that path object by setting up a connection with this file on Hadoop file system. Right. Now you wanted to get the status of that file. For that you are using get file status method. Observe this third line. Get file status method is being used by passing this file instance as parameter. You have created a file instance for the file on Hadoop file system. Now you are getting that file status by using get file status method of this file system class and storing it in a file status object stat. Okay, now all the metadata about this file is being retrieved and stored in this stat object of file status. All the metadata about this file on Hadoop file system is being retrieved, and that data is being stored in this file system object stat, file status object stat. Right? Now all the information, all the metadata is available in this stat object. Now you wanted to tally it with the existing data, whether it is correctly retrieved or not. For that, we use a method called as assert that. Assert that is a method which is widely used for testing. Testing whether what is expected is tallying with what is already existing or not. Okay, so you're using that assert that method and you're checking whether the path that you obtain through this file status object, it is same as what you have given. Okay, you're trying to get the status of this file, right? It has some status, and whether that is tallying with what is obtained as the file status, that you're matching, you're trying to match. Assert that expects two parameters. The first parameter is what is retrieved, and the second parameter is what is existing. Whether both are tallying or not, you are testing with assert that method. Okay, so you are using stat dot get the path to URI using the get path method. Now the path of that file for which the status is retrieved is obtained. Now whether that path is equal to the existing path that you have passed. Yes, if both of them match, then you have retrieved the status of the file path that you have passed. Okay, yes, you have retrieved the status. You have retrieved the metadata of the file path that you have passed. Correct. Now you want to test other parameters also. Whether it is a directory. Now you are asserting that means you wanted to find a match whether you have retrieved the data of a directory or a file. So you are giving stat.is directory, whether it is matching is false because you have retrieved the file status of a file under a directory. You haven't retrieved the status of a directory. Understand this carefully. You have retrieved the file's status under a directory. Means you are referring to a file, not a directory in this current scenario. So stat is directory is false. Yes, it is true. You're not referring to a directory. It is not a directory. It is a file. Now assert that you're trying to get the length of the file. And is it matching with the existing bytes? You're trying to match. You're trying to check. Then get modification time. Whether it is less than or equal to the current time milliseconds. Means you haven't accessed to the present time. To the present system time. You have accessed that file some time back, right? So it has to be less than or equal to the current system time. Your current system time is presently your present time. Now, the modification of the file may be somewhat lesser than that because you have last modified it some time back. In such case, you are trying to tally it with is less than or equal to the current system time. The modification time of the file is less than or equal to the current system time. Yes, it will be obviously yes. Right? Then you're taking get the replication factor. Is it equal to 1? You're checking. Get the block size. Is it equal to this number? You're checking. Get the owner. Is it equal to Tom? Get the group. To which group he belongs to? Supergroup? Yes. Get the permission. Transform it to string. Compare it with the regular expression. Whether he is having read-write access or only read access or append access or only write access. That kind of permissions can be matched. So what you're doing with this assert function, whatever is the status of the file, whether that status obtained is equal to that file's existing parameters, whether both are matching or not. If it is matching, then you are accessing the right file. Okay, that can be understood from a file status method. Sorry, file status class. File status class is get file status method, right? Now we are trying to further do this for the directory also. In the last code, we have defined a method to get the file status for a file. Yes, one method is completed. You can tally with all the files metadata by using assert that function. Now, your next method tries to compare the metadata with the retrieved data for a directory. In the previous case, you have done it for a file. Now it is for a directory. Okay, the code will be almost the same. Only thing is you're passing a directory path here rather than a file. Previously, if you want to refer to a file, you have passed that file path. But here you wanted to understand about the status of a directory, not a file. So you're passing the directory structure as the path, which holds the instance in dir. Okay, and also get the file status object, which is connected to the directory to get the file status. Now that entire directory structure's metadata is retrieved into your stat object. This is same as what we have done in previous slide. But previously you are trying to access a file. Now you are trying to access a directory. Got it? Now assert, by using assert that, you are checking whether the retrieved path is equal to the actual path you have passed. You are asserting that. Means you are checking that if matching is true, it is safely executed. It goes on to the next statement. If no matching is found, immediately it will raise an exception. Understand, students? What is the importance of assert that? Assert that will try to find the match between the two parameters that are passed. First is the obtained status. Second is the existing status. If both are true, it goes to the next statement. If both are matched, it goes to the next statement. If there is a mismatch, in that case, it throws exception. You understood the importance of assert that? Now again, in the next statement, you are trying to find here if it is a directory that you are accessing. Yes, if it is true. Okay, so a match will be done. Now get the length of the directory. Directory's length, file has a length, but directory doesn't have a length, right? So you are trying to match it with 0 bytes. So that also will be matched true. Next, you are getting the modification time in milliseconds when the directory has been last modified. Yes, match is found. No exception is arised. Now we are trying to get the replication factor. For directories, replication factor is 0. In the previous case, because it is a file and you're working with a single data node, you can't maintain more than one copy. You can't maintain more than one replication factor. That is why you have given here 1. But here for directory, you can't maintain copies of directory structure. That is why you're matching it with 0. Next, get the block size. Block size also for a directory, you are not storing any data. So it is 0. Get the owner, yes. The owner of the file and the owner of the directory also. Almost they'll be the same. So you're tallying with the owner, you're tallying with the group, and you're tallying with the permissions that are granted for that directory. Okay, this is how you obtain the status or metadata about a file or directory and try to tally it with the existing metadata of the file or directory and see whether all are working properly, all are matched or not. If no file or directory exists, a file not found exception is thrown. That is correct. If the file doesn't exist or if the directory doesn't exist, it will throw file not found exception. But if you are interested only in the existence of a file or directory, then the exist method can be used. You don't want any metadata. You just want to know whether the file or directory exists. In such cases, you can use the exist method on file system, which is more convenient, right? You don't want to know all the parameters in the status. You just want to know whether the file exists or not. Only if you know the file exists or not, then you can retrieve its status, right? For that, you have a simple method, exists, which takes the path to the file to know whether that file exists or not, and it returns a Boolean value. If the file exists, it returns true. If the file doesn't exist, it returns false. Okay, I think the time may not be sufficient for us to continue with this because we have some more topics, listing of the files and path filters. And to discuss this in detail, I think we may require another hour. So I would like to stop here. Students, do you have any doubts still here? Did you understand all the code? Rizwan? Asta?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand the Java code line by line very clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Deepika MB?
Yes, ma'am.
Nishant, what about you? If at all you lost track somewhere in the middle about the explanation of a single line, just refer to the video once again. Okay, if at all you lost continuity somewhere by getting diverted. Okay, all this code is very, very important. You may have a question of how to use the file status parameters, how to get the file status of a file in Hadoop's file system. If such questions are given, you have to write this entire Java code. For this, you need to understand. You can't remember all these statements one after the other. If you understand, by default, you can express the code in your own way, right? Okay, then we'll meet in the next class. I'll take the attendance, stay back.